book. So this week I'm talking about video games. I'm ending the show with a final reflection on video games because they have taught me a lot about the problems of storytelling and technology and some of the deepest issues of storytelling. Yesterday I was talking about how I would stumble every now and again on a new video game and become addicted to it and then get out of it. And that was kind of a pattern that I followed for quite a long time because I was very busy. I was building a career. I was going nuts. I was doing all kinds of things. And so I would only swim into video games every now and again. But games have always fascinated me and stories have always fascinated me. And this kind of caught up with me as a way of gaming. So I hurt myself playing Space Invaders. And so for a while I didn't do anything. But then video games started kind of swimming into the culture, so they would just swim into my ken. When I got married, which I got married right after I had been a reporter, that's when I found Space Invaders. Somebody gave me an Atari. This was the first time, and to have something in your home where you could play a game on your TV, it's hard to convey to people who were born after that period that how wild that was, that suddenly it was affordable to bring something into your building. When I was a kid, I had a friend who was rich and he had a pinball machine in his basement. And that was like, oh my Lord, he's so rich. He has a pinball machine in his basement. And now suddenly you could have a video game on your TV for very, very little money. And so that became really central. But again, and then, of course, computers became, I think I've told this story before, but when somebody first taught me, I was a radio news writer, and somebody taught me how to use a computer to write with, which I had to do. Like I said, no, just give me a typewriter. And they said, no, you have to learn how to do this. I went home and I spent every dime my wife and I had, which was $1,200. I spent every dime to buy a computer. My wife came home and said, what's that? And I said, hi, honey, it's a computer. I just spent every dime we had on it, but it's going to pay us back. And she said, okay, because that's the kind of great wife she is, and it did pay us back. It paid us back almost instantly. But then on that computer, you could start to have games that were word games. There was a game called Zork. Does anybody remember Zork? And all it was words. It was just text. I think Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I remember somebody gave me a pornography game that you could play, which I just looked at for fun and then threw it away. But it was just text, and it would say you walk down a street and you say, okay, turn right, and then it would tell you what was there, and then you had to solve all these puzzles. And as I played that, I thought, interesting, new, different kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, but on computer, but not really all that exciting. And then came another watershed, which was the Nintendo system. And the Nintendo system came out and I played Super Mario. And Super Mario, the thing that got me about Super Mario, and nobody else mentioned this, nobody talked about it, not at the time anyway, was I was playing this thing. It was so much fun. But I remember turning to my wife and saying, who thinks of an Italian plumber fighting evil mushrooms? Where on earth does that idea come from? And in what form of storytelling could you come up with that idea? Because the wonderful thing about Super Mario is it was about a dragon king who kidnaps a princess. So it was the oldest story on earth. The hero has to rescue the princess from the bad guy. That story is as old as time. And when Disney tells you and Marvel, oh, we'll never have a woman in jeopardy again, it's just somebody else will do it and make the money, because that is the oldest story of all time, a man protecting a woman from the evil one. But that it was an Italian plumber and that his enemies were turtles and mushrooms. Suddenly I thought, well, wait a minute. That takes all the rules off. That takes all the boundaries off. It's almost like these guys were on drugs. I don't think they actually were, but it's almost like these guys are on drugs and having a hallucination and then bringing those hallucinatory visions into a story. And that was the first time I ever started to think, oh, wait, there is something really interesting going on here that could affect the way I tell stories and the way everyone tells stories. I'll talk about it more tomorrow. It's the mailbag tomorrow. Be there. All your problems solved, all your questions answered. Come on, for a lousy $10 a month, that's a pretty good deal. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is The Andrew Klavan Show.